What took 1 month, 5 years ago, now it takes 3 sentences in English.
While the majority of companies are experimenting with AI, only a small percentage report meaningful impact on their bottom line.
He had 120 people to sort and classify and prepare the marketing materials of the products that show up in the website. Now with AI, he has 10 people doing it. 120 to 10.
What is that signal that will tell you that you're falling into the trap of just putting the layer?
But the big risk is for, a AI native company having a completely new process, being 10 times more productive than you.
Companies are investing billions into artificial intelligence. In fact, global corporate spending on AI is expected to surpass hundreds of billions of dollars in the next few years. And yet, most executives still struggle to answer one simple question: what is the return? Surveys show that while the majority of companies are experimenting with AI, only a small percentage report meaningful impact on their bottom line. And at the same time, leadership teams are under increasing pressure from the boards, investors, and competitors to move way faster. Now, here's where it's actually getting interesting. A new generation of AI native companies is already generating over $2 million in revenue per employee, several times, which is higher than the traditional SaaS businesses. At the same time, the cost of running an AI model is dropping dramatically, in some cases close to 90% year over year less. So we are entering in a world where intelligence, which is something that has been always scarce, is becoming abundant, cheap, and scalable. And that should be a breakthrough moment for businesses, but for most organizations, it's not. Because the problem is not the technology. The problem is that companies are trying to apply this new capability to systems that were never designed for it. They are layering AI on top of processes, structures, and decision-making models that are built for a completely different era. And that is what is creating a gap, a growing gap between that AI makes possible and what companies are actually able to capture. This is why many leaders are starting to feel a sense of confusion and even disillusion. But what if this moment is not a failure of AI? And what if it's the early stage of a much deeper transformation? Not about adopting new tools, but about redesigning how companies are operating, how they are creating value, and especially how they are scaling up. Welcome to the Tech Foresight podcast, where we are exploring not just how technology is evolving, but how is it reshaping the system we rely on, and that we're also making decisions, how we're building companies, and how we're creating value. I am Diana Daniels. I am the host of this podcast. I am in the intersection of technology, telecommunications, AI, blockchain, and we go beyond trends to understand the deeper shifts shaping the future of business and society. And to explore the question on how do we work in the future, I wanted to bring someone that has spent decades in the intersection of capital, strategy, and execution, and who made a deliberate pivot into understanding AI, not from the outside, but also from within. Rodrigo Barros has worked across investment banking, M&A, and corporate strategy, and in recent years, he has gone deep into the technical and operational realities of artificial intelligence, studying and not only building it within, but also applying it inside organizations. What it makes his perspective very interesting and particularly valuable for us is that he doesn't look at AI as a tool, but he sees it as a system that forces companies to rethink how they are designed. And today's conversation is not about AI trends. It's about how operating systems of businesses are changing and what it will take to navigate that shift. Because the companies that will win in this next era will not be the ones that experiment in the most. It will be the ones that are redesigning themselves first. So if you want to understand what it really takes to redesign your company for this next era, stay with us. It's going to be fun. Thank you. Thank you, Rodrigo Barros, for being here with us in this episode of the Tech Foresight podcast. Most companies today are investing very heavily in AI. The budgets are increasing, the teams are expanding and experimenting. Also, I believe that there's a lot of pressure from boards to move fast. But what I also see is that very few can clearly point what is that measurement of ROI, the return of investment. I believe there's a very big tension in here because AI is supposed to be that big productivity breakthrough in our time. But for many organizations, the results are still unclear. So I'm curious. I'm curious, Rodri, because what do you think AI is still not delivering that value that the people are expecting? Or do you think that maybe companies are approaching it the wrong way? Is it that maybe we're just not capturing the value properly? What is that impact that might seem limited than expected? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I started with the best question, I guess. And then I have actually a very strong opinion about that because I have seen studies, I have been to conferences, and it's pretty clear, it's 100% clear that on a task level, AI brings productivity. I would say that's on average. Any task that you use AI, it's going to cost 30% less and you're going to get 50% more. So there is this kind of conundrum. How, if you're so productive on a task level, why is it hard to measure on an aggregate level? That's the question. And I think the answer for this is actually quite old. There is a book from 50 years ago from a guy called Paul Strasman. Steve Jobs was a big fan of him. He was the technology guy of the CIA long time ago. And he has a very good point that a technology only spreads when the cost of coordination is less than the benefits. So and this ties very well with what's happening on the agent front. If I have, hundreds or thousands of tasks that are being executed better and with less cost, but I need to have humans in the loop. There's still hallucination. It's not using my data properly. It still has to connect with legacy systems. All of that together, it's kind of messy. Sometimes the test is cheaper, but the coordination is higher. I have to put the bots, the clause, everything connecting with the SaaS that I already have. So I think it's a coordination problem, and that's why agents are so important. Agents is how to coordinate at scale.
So, but if we look inside these organizations trying to make the AI work, where does it actually start to break down? I mean, because is it because the leader they're having troubles in framing the problem? Is it because the teams and the way that they are using the tools, or maybe is it because the process or how the process are being designed in the way that they work with AI? What is your take on it?
Yeah, once again, I have a very strong opinion on that because when I was at university, was at the same time of the re-engineering boom. And it's pretty clear that to get less solutions, you need to do re-engineering on the companies. Maybe with another name, re-engineering may sound like dated to some extent, but when you're using, forward deployment engineers like Palantir does, that's kind of the same, just like more fashionable. So, I mean, if you use copilots in your company, and this is already measured. I mean, there is probably $100 billion in savings of just people getting, better answers on copilots and going to home early. I saw that number the other day. So that's very hard to measure. And if your employee leaves the company, the expert productivity is gone.
Yeah.
So as long as you have the process completely re-engineered, or even better, a whole new process, it's very hard to measure. And that's also where I think people make confusion because LLMs are part of the solution. I have my own setup that I like to apply whenever I can, which is proprietary data, mostly in databases, then LLM, many times tied to a Python program. And then I have a validator. And actually, I think there should be two validators, one that's quantitative, like machine learning, and the other qualitative, like a constitution. And then you have the presentation, the communication. So whenever I think about AI, I think of these four steps, the proprietary data and databases, the prompts and the codes, then the validation, and then the presentation.
Yeah. That's
So it's a
actually
whole
very good.
process.
But then I would like to probably take a little bit, like if we look at like from the outside, because that's very really good insight, but it's right in the middle. But let's gonna go a little bit on from the outside. Like if you're a CEO looking at your own organization today, what it will be that maybe that signal that is telling you that you're falling into the trap of the that you're not really adopting AI, but you're actually layering in top of those old systems that you were defining. What how could, because in many cases, not many founders today are technical founders, and you came actually from you did something very interesting because you were in finance. You you actually did the work to get like a deep dive into AI, but not many people have done it like you. So if you were this CEO looking at your own organization today, what do you think that what is that signal that would tell you that you're falling into the trap of just putting the layer? All layer.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's such a complex question because when you look at what's happening in the backstage, people from the tech sector, they are telling you that the big consulting companies are coming to them, say that they are giving advice, not knowing what they are doing, and it's all also happening so fast. Sam Altman says to like the founders of the startups that are investing that you can see like 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead, not much more than that because it's happening so fast. So that's a tough question. I would definitely, I like to think about Elon Musk idiot measure, something like that, which is how much does it cost to coordinate, how much extra cost do you have regarding the real inputs that the client perceives. So everything that has a huge burden of coordination of overheads, it's an area that every CEO should be focusing. Um, I would say, having also been in big companies as an executive, and I'm talking to lots of executives,
Yeah.
I think it has nothing to do with the technology per se. Corporate politics is something quite big. The how can I say? If vice presidents of a company make a $20 million bet that goes sour, even if the company makes $1 billion in revenues, that may take his career forever. And that's why as both that we did SCP, it's all about culture and leadership. So I think the corporate world has a problem with taking the risk. And it's not that it's rational. It's very rational to be afraid of the risk and the fear in their careers. Because if you look at re-engineering in the 90s, I really like to look at re-engineering in the 90s. Actually, 60% of the companies that tried re-engineering failed.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not, it's
But I didn't have to go all the way back to the 90s. We can talk about the digital transformation also happening like either like a pre-COVID, post-COVID, and now AI. It's many companies are failing in that implementation. But what I like about what you just said is that you're not framing this as a technical or technological issue. I love that it's
not.
more about the systems behavior issue, isn't it?
Yes. I always like to think about systems because that's what you can control and what you can measure. So I'll give you a few examples. Also from a company that one of our classmates from SCP runs. He had 120 people to sort and classify and prepare the marketing materials of the products that show up in the website. Now with AI, he has 10 people doing it. 120 to 10.
Wow.
So another bank that had to look at files for giving credit. They had 30 people doing it. With AI, they have 2 people, and actually these 2 people are much younger and much less expensive than before. So it's just like you have to do the experiments, but those are really low risk experiments that you can have results in 90 days. You start with what's repetitive, document scanning, doing pattern recognition. There are so many easy things to try, and you can do it at a low cost, in association with startups, with a squad inside your company. It's really a cultural issue. But had it been a big company
I love
before?
this because when we were speaking about making this podcast, Rodrigo, you were sharing with me some impressive data about you were telling me that some AI native companies are generating like over what is it like $2 million in revenue per employee versus the SaaS. It's crazy. You want to explore a little bit more on that?
Yes, and actually that's a big question that I have because um I'm doing analysis of how much extra returns companies can get from using AI, just maintaining the existing process with less people. And I would say that's on average 3 or 4 percentage points. But that's using the existing process. But the big risk is for, a AI native company having a completely new process, being 10 times more productive than you. But then you say, look at the banking industry in Brazil. You say, oh, but I have 100 products. How they can, with 10 people, go after all this complexity that I had. But the beauty is that they don't have to go after 100 products. They will go after your most profitable product at first. So and then we have the poster child of this Brazil, it's the bank. That for 3 or 4 years, people would say that it was just a credit card company. And the incumbent banks, had the stores on the streets, had, the mortgage business, the vehicle financing business, all those sort of things. But then with credit card, it became credit card business only became one of the most valuable companies in Latin America.
But I love it because then what you're proposing is that rather than just going incremental improvement all across the board, is try it in a different level of productivity in places where you can make a difference, right?
Yes.
So if we can give our audience a little bit of like a insight of how those workflow might look like when it's designed around AI instead of simply putting it like in top of the existing processes. What do you think is the pieces that that the CTO or the CIO or the CEO must be thinking about?
Yeah, when you look at the CEO of Microsoft, just says, I think he has the right mindset. Of course, he was an investor in OpenAI. He says that he spends, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one morning per week talking with startups, and he would, one afternoon call, his friends in the VC world and ask what's the most interesting startup. Um, I think we have to design a system to get up to date, honestly, and you have to talk to people that are building. I mean, get that strange study from MIT that 95% of AI solutions fail. That study was done before GPT-4. GPT-4 was issued like on the same week. So I don't even have to see the methodology. It's wrong by definition because when you do a study, you spend like 6 months collecting data, but then you have a model 10 times better on the day that the study goes out. And maybe that study will circulate for 1 year. Even this week, I was in a Stanford meeting and someone mentioned that study. But I don't have to read because it's garbage, because the day it was published, there was something 10 times better.
I see that. If we think about then who has to own the process when you're running into the company, who you think that person is inside of the company? Is if this is not only a technological issue, it's a technological or technology initiative, or I believe that it has to become more into the leadership or operating model side. So who should the
Yes,
owner
yes.
inside?
Yeah. I mean, when you have like some board experience or you're close to the leadership, uh, you know that you have to have everyone on board, like if, because, the CFO has the key to the money. The CEO is looking at his legacy, trying to keep his job, which is not easy because you have quarterly earnings. And then you have the VP of technology that, you know, he wants to do only AI, but he has to, make sure there are no virus in the company. He has to buy the PCs for the new employees. He has to pay for the SAP license. So, I mean, he has like 5% of his time or less to do innovation. I think companies should have a senior person or CVC to bring the ideas. And it must be a board and C-level, there should be a compromise. Not like we see most companies that a successful CVC is one that lasts for two CEOs. That's
Y-
not the
y-
approach now.
And you are seated right now. You have a lot of experience with companies in Brazil, in Latin America, in the United States. What do you think that the medium sized company can do today? Where do they even start? Because most of these organizations, especially the bigger one, they have like dozens of potential use case, either from customer service to finance to operations, but very few know where AI can actually create that big or meaningful impact first. So if we think about based on what you've seen, where are the highest level of entry points for AI inside of a company? And especially, these companies that in Latin America are like the biggest force of production in our countries.
Yeah, I think when you're small, you should always focus on speed. Yeah, we like to say that in entrepreneurship or startups, it's the fight of speed against money.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the big companies, they have the money and they can pay for the big consulting companies, big IT companies should do a project for them that will last, like 1 year or 3 years. So you have to be kind of fast. The capital intensity to do many projects is actually quite low, and you should start, honestly, with things that give you results in 90 days, 120 days. You shouldn't aim for the moon. You get, like customer support, the productivity is like 45, 50%, from the study case that I saw. Morgan Stanley just published a report saying that customer service like that, coding is more than 6% productivity. You have kind of the ranks. No, imagine
Yeah.
that, every, process that is repetition or it's document analysis or pattern recognition, you should start with that.
Hmm.
But I would definitely, things are moving so fast and there are so many things that are, very close to your hands. Uh, don't aim to be a multinational on day one. You just, do programming, customer, customer support, document analysis, things like that. And you're gonna, for every million that's spent, you're gonna have, like 5 million in MPV. It's very fast, actually.
What I like about this is that, when you have these pragmatic winnings, it's easy to measure. But I guess that the problem comes when you're not sure it's failing, right? You're implementing things. When do you know it's not the right way? And that probably brings me to how do we measure the return of investment? Because one of the biggest barriers today is that leaders are still trying to evaluate, that the use of AI in the same or traditional return of investment metrics or frameworks. And if they're looking for direct revenue impact, when in many cases the value shows, as you just said, either in the speed or the efficiency or even in the quality of the decisions. So
Yeah.
how would you think that? a good ROI will look like in an AI context, especially in the early stages?
Yeah. It's all about, having a real problem to solve. And that's, I was talking to a large consulting company in Brazil, and that's what they say. We don't get, what it's on the shelf and try to apply to the company. We ask, like, what are you, how, what's causing you suffering?
Yeah.
And show the results. I would look at that's definitely that's direction. Uh, what it's not exactly your answer, but I think it's important to make this point now. I was looking at once again this very good Morgan Stanley report, and then it showed the barriers to implementation of AI in companies. And as they say, never try to guess, get the data. And I would really think that hallucination would show up pretty high in the ranking. It was the lowest one among like 20 causes for not adopting AI. And the first, 3 or 4 had to do with lack of internal knowledge.
Yeah, and now that you're telling me this, another ideas came to my mind. And actually, we were talking a little bit earlier when we're starting the program about the layers that are becoming also very relevant on what people believe, that there's not only one AI, right? There's not only one vendor. You have different models that are probably better for things. Some are good for reasoning, other ones are good for coding, another one's for handling large contexts. I probably would like your input on what do you think is good for what. But also what I would like maybe your expertise in how the company should think about on a system way, from a perspective on implementing the systems. Are we? Do you think that we're moving from a kind of multimodal architecture inside organizations? What is your idea on this?
Yeah. You always start from what you want and you work backwards, in my opinion. So it's multimodal by definition. And actually, because I was studying this for a long time, I had an asset management company that was founded in 2015. We closed it in 2023, and it had something that was really machine learning based, even though we didn't use that name at the time. Because of that, I see lots and lots of value in the old AI, like machine learning, XGBoost, neural network.
Old AI. I mean, old.
Yeah,
It's like 3 years ago. Old AI.
yeah, exactly. Good old fashioned AI. And then one of those online courses from Stanford, which I take 1 or 2 every quarter to keep my mind fresh. Uh, the speaker was from Cisco,
Mm.
and he said that to get the best Wi-Fi signal, they use AI, and that's the AI is a linear regression, and says there is no need to have more than a linear regression to get the best Wi-Fi signal. So really have to know, like, okay, this is a very simple problem. X equals B plus Y. That's enough. 2 variables. That's okay. I don't need big data for that. So to know, how, and that's also very important because AI is quite expensive when you start to using it at scale. My nanobots, which had like 3 queries on Sunday, cost me $15 because I asked it to read 120 some stacks and summarize, and then I saw that it took like 30 million tokens and it was very expensive. So when you get to use it to have all this power, you want more and more and more. So knowing like, oh, this is a very simple issue. I don't need AI. I'll create a program that will read the document with Python code. We'll look for the sections, with Python, and then it will cost me nothing. But then there will be the case where you really need to read 1 million words and get an insight. And then I'll use, Cloud Code, and it will cost me, I don't know, a few dollars. You have to know it's not one solution. It's really like, and that's very important. I think that's machine learning and LLM together. I think that's the perfect combination.
So and the way and to probably put it in simple words, I'm thinking, as a small medium company will probably will have, let's say, several accounts. We'll have like an open AI account that might give it to their customer service or marketing team. Maybe the Cloud or Anthropic account that for sure their developers are going to use for the code development. Maybe another one's for Perplexity. Um, and that what it just gives me a little bit of a freak out on this is like, how does that going to change how companies are thinking about data, the security, and the control of their networks?
Yes, yes, that's the challenge. We saw the virus that spread yesterday, right? With, it was self-installing the computers without everyone knowing because it was, like vibe coding itself.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the risks, you know. When Caparty said that the agent, uh, we are going to have a decade for getting agents ready, and people complained a little bit. I think it's a decade, and usually things from lab to real life takes a decade. In case of AI, it's going to be much less. But when I was in Silicon Valley last year for the TED AI in San Francisco, the thesis that we had at the time, I think it was October last year, is that 2026 would be the trough of disillusionment because agents were not ready and people would think that AI was a fiasco. And that was like 6 months ago. But then we had, new cloud models, GPT 5.4, OpenClaw, so many good things happening that maybe we have a first half of the year of disappointments only. So things are moving quite fast, but there are lots of things to do. And as I said, LLM is 10, 20, or 30% of the business. But, getting proper data, getting the proper rights for the data, getting people with knowledge, scaling with security. There are all those sort of things. It's just really, really looking at your process and analyzing how to improve it or whether you should just throw it out and build something new.
But do you think that we don't have that disillusionment period anymore, or that we will continue to have it?
Oh, I think now, for me, it's quite mixed. You know, uh, I'm doing a presentation for a financial firm. It's going to be actually next Monday. And I was looking at the Moore's Law. And of course, roughly every 2 years, you would double the capacity of, the chip, the processor.
Yeah.
But there is that other law that very few people talk about. That's the Huang's law. And, from Jason Huang, from NVIDIA. And actually, if you look, the last 10 years, the Huang's law is 3.5 times faster than the Moore's law.
Mm.
So every 2 years, the processor capacity goes up by 7 to 8 times. And then there's something very interesting, and I heard this from our alma mater, Stanford, talking to the business model professor there. He once said something quite interesting. Moore's law is not a physical law; it's an economics law.
Right.
Because when you look at history, to make it work, to get that rate of improvement every single year for the last many decades, like 50 years, you had to put more money and more people working on the problems to make that go through it. It was every single year it was getting harder,
Yeah.
but you were adding more resources to make that happen.
Uh-huh.
And I think that one of the reasons why uh, it works so well is that, doubling the speed, or sorry, the number of processors every 3 years, that gave a sense of how to prepare yourself for technology. Like, oh, I'll buy this computer, I'll replace it in 5 years. I'll have this X number of people doing that. When something new shows up, I'll evaluate for 1 or 2 years. there was some recipe for that. That's been happening for 50 years. But when you say, okay, look at that recipe, but now you have to cook 4 times faster, I think we don't know the answer yet.
I know. Uh, you know what? One of the most provocative ideas that that you've mentioned is that AI doesn't affect everyone equally inside an organization.
Yeah.
In fact, it seems that it's going to increase the value of this is like of the senior professionals because those who
Yeah.
can define the problems will make decisions and guide those systems probably with more data. But it's also going to affect or reduce the need for the junior roles that traditionally focus on gathering the data, building the reports, executing the tasks. I mean, I was an intern, when I was 18 doing that.
Yeah.
So if we unpack this, how is AI changing that structure of the teams? Who is becoming more valuable? Who are your MVP players, right? And who is at risk of being completely displaced?
Yeah, the numbers so far are not that catastrophic. The companies are firing people, but they're also hiring. So I would say that on average, you're reducing your headcount, like 3% per year. It's not that. I mean, we see where the film, the movie can go, but it's not happening that fast.
Mm.
Um, I don't have the full answer because actually there are two competing trends. What you
Yeah.
said is absolutely true. Today, the one that can design the systems, the architect, the one that has the knowledge, he's the one that's more valuable. But paradoxically, the younger people, they are digital natives, so they also improve faster. So
Yeah, but
they have less jobs, but they also improve like 30, 40%
they're
faster than in the
faster.
past. Yeah.
It's
So maybe
it's
that
very
changes
interesting.
in a few years.
It's very interesting because we were having a conversation also um with one of the guests and in a previous podcast, and we were talking about like the challenge of middle-aged people, people after their 50s and finding
Yeah.
jobs. Like in Europe, for instance, or in Germany, which was the use case that we were speaking about, companies are not hiring, people over 50. And then if we think, and I guess that the dichotomy of that related questions about workforce is that the companies are going to probably hire less junior roles, but they're not even hiring more senior roles either. So it's just a very challenging time, I guess, for people that are don't have the experience, but also for the experienced people that are not ready to learn faster on these new systems. You need to make sure that you are right on the edge in both sides.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think there's a big hiring freeze everywhere. I think the only solution is for you to aim to be the best in what you do. And
But do you think that we're moving maybe towards a different type of company, maybe one that is smaller and more powerful? There's the idea, obviously, of Sam Altman saying the solopreneur that is going to be a unicorn. Do you see that really happening very soon?
oh, I mean, the issue with being a solo founder in a unicorn or something like that is that you need to have a moat, and it's very hard to have a moat if you're just one person, And also, uh, I saw so many people become consultants, and after repeating what they know for 1 or 2 years, that becomes a commodity. That's also an issue. So have to be very careful, about, unless you are really bright, and there are many bright people in Silicon Valley or in some fields like PhDs, whatever. So they have really differentiated knowledge. I think that may happen, or you can get lucky, of course. But I think that's, we have the trends of, like the startup to become more popular and companies becoming smaller. I think that's inevitable. I mean, if you look at the gig economy, I remember seeing a stat once that, like almost like half of the US population was already somehow in the gig economy.
Right.
And I think that trend will only increase because the cost of coordination in big companies, it's really high. You have, layers and layers and layers of management, and you need less and less of that. And, the,
My fear on that is that we're creating a system with fewer entry points into the workforce. I guess
Yes.
that is getting, it will be more difficult to get into the workforce. And that probably leads me to another set of questions about skills, because the way that I believe that we're seeing this is that intelligence is becoming more accessible, is going to be
Yes.
more abundant and therefore more scalable. So then the source of the value for individuals is also going to shift, because it's not going to be just about having the answers. So I wonder, Rodrigo, in your perspective, what capabilities are then going to become more valuable in this environment?
Right. For me, I would say
I'm
connection.
giving you hard questions, I know.
No. I think about that a lot. I just left my garden leave. I was M&A director of a big company, and I just finished my garden leave. And those are questions that I'm making myself. Um, but in a very, expensive way, I think the answer is connection. Because I'll give you, it's connecting with people, connecting different subjects, connecting separate systems in just one. I think connection is what matters the most. And I'll give you one example. Also, some study that I'm putting in that presentation I'm doing on Monday. The best models that exist today, they can have a context, which, let's say, specific knowledge of 1 million tokens. So,
Okay.
as I said, we have to talk to the CEOs. 1 billion tokens, whatever is a token. So it's difficult to explain. So I try to think about something easier to explain. So I can say that LLM knows the general knowledge of the world that it learned basically from Reddit, but you can tell him very specific knowledge. But the size of the knowledge that he can know at once is equivalent to the Harry Potter books, no more than that. Literally, that's 1 million tokens. So you have, you're gonna have in a few years, and now the answer is already quite good, the best answer possible on Harry Potter. And then you have the, best answer possible on, what Feynman wrote. You're gonna have the best answer possible on what Carl Sagan wrote, and so on, so on. But what maybe you're 10 years away is for someone that connects an insight from a Harry Potter in designing a motor for a rocket. Because those things don't talk to each other. And that's where humans are really, really good. Because, we have 30, 40, 50 years of experience of reading, of talking about emotions. And emotions is also very important. I'll talk about that later. And, somehow we're in the middle of a meeting, you're writing something, and you remember something that happened when you're in high school that connects to that. And you connect to talk to someone that you met in high school that may have an answer. I can't do that. It's just like you're always trapped in a valley somehow.
I love this, because then, I cannot then stop thinking on what are the skills that maybe we used to train people that may not longer be the ones that matter. What are skills or roles you think that are most in risk of disappearing this shift? What it will start to lose relevance?
To some extent, and that was what was fashionable. I mean, to some extent, like the nerds will lose value because that was a guy that was, really, really knowledge about just a small thing. I think now being more plural is more important.
So you think generalistics have more chances than before. I remember I started when I was young. I started what was it called? Management, right? Administración de empresas is called in Mexico.
Yes.
So, and I remember when they told someone, "Oh, that is too generalistic. That's that. No, you need to go deeper, like do finance or the actuary or auditory. Very precise." So your point now is we're going back from the focus into the generalistic.
No, I don't think that's either, because if you're too generalistic, maybe the LLM will also be that good. There's a concept that I like, that's the T-shaped person.
Okay.
That's one that's he knows a subject more in depth than anyone else and any LLM would even know. At the same time, he knows how to connect that to, let's say, 10 other disciplines. That's the concept that I like the most. I see people talk about that quite a lot in the US, not that much in Brazil for several reasons. But I think that's what works best because, no, if you look at a sector in Brazil like utilities, the laws are very specific. They change every day. You have to know what the congressman's about to do. You have to know, what happened when, like 30 years ago, and maybe there is not a database that has the data. And it's Brazil. It's not, it's not like Claude is rushing to buy information about Brazil overnight.
Yeah.
So there are specific areas where you can still have an edge. And then there is one sentence that I'm saying, I'm still waiting for someone to prove me wrong, but I like to say that AI is intelligence less emotion, because emotions are clinical by definition, right? And I even I was seeing a podcast the other day and somebody said something very interesting about traumas. It said that when you have a trauma and the situation repeats in the future, you don't live the present, you live the past.
Interesting.
And that's purely chemical. How can a person being in a moment feel like he or she is suffering something that happened 10, 20 years ago? That's not natural to machine learning or LLMs. That's really, it's something chemical that happens, and I myself don't know how to explain. But, how many times you say something that's it's the right thing to do, to say at the right time, and you don't get the reaction that you expect, or sometimes you do very little, and the person, gets very happy about what you said. Emotions are very complicated, and there is no rule for emotion. Why do you like, like yellow or red flowers? There is no model for that.
Yeah, the machine not necessarily might know why you like the red or the yellow one, but or remember it why.
Yeah.
How did it make you feel?
Yeah, maybe if like Neuralink in 20 years, I think Elon Musk already saw this, and that's why
We
wants
will
to
have to
back
talk.
it.
We will have to repeat this podcast 10 years from now
Yeah,
to
but
understand.
that's very, very far away. Yeah.
So, well, it's not that far away. I gotta say, 10 years fly. But you speak with a lot of CEOs, and you do all these presentations. You've done this journey into digital transformation, and I wonder, from your perspective, Rodrigo, what are what the leaders that are navigating this and that they are doing well? What is the main difference? Those who aren't actually able to translate AI into real impact, what are they doing differently for those that are failing?
It's actually, for me, it's quite simple, honestly. It's just like cut the politics and use the scientific method. It's not very different from that. Just get the hard data, cut the bullshit. Don't leave the problem to the next CEO because, uh, I was seeing a situation the other day about a particular company that doesn't want to sell an asset. And I said, why don't they sell? There are lots of buyers. And somebody told no, because, they spend a lot building it. They were very efficient. And, if they sell it, they are going to have to book $100 million loss in the P&L, and they won't have a bonus this year. So, like life happens, we say, why not are they focusing on that? It's just because, every company has to increase profits 5 or 10% per year. they can't, recognize when things go wrong. They have to postpone to the next CEO, or it's because there is a VP of technology. If the VP of technology gets busy installing PCs and buying antivirus and negotiate with SAP, he doesn't want to see, a director responsible of AI doing all the cool things that are increasing the ROE of the company. I think it all boils down to, the good leadership. And that's why I think that so many founders go to Stanford, because when they go to Stanford, they kind of get they get the same operating system of things that they should do and things they should not do from the leadership perspective, not the technology perspective.
So let's talk to those guys that haven't been in Stanford yet. And what should they doing now? How they can be preparing now to make this shift work? But if you're the leader of a company, even you went to Stanford or not, maybe you went to Harvard, Oxford, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, what shall you be doing right now?
Start. I mean, I'm being, I want to create an impact, but that's it. And I'll give you, and all my mentors in my life, they never gave me answers. They only made me more questions. So I'm gonna follow that's path. But the week I was leaving the company I used to work for, I saw a guy that did the NSX program from Stanford post something interesting. I contacted him, and I asked, what are you seeing there? And the guy said, "Oh, I can tell you, or you can come here and see. I think you should come here and see." So I bought a ticket 1 hour later and was there the next week. Because, you have to, once again, Steve Jobs, of course, it's a big inspiration. And that's what he says about management consulting, right? You're going to tell, oh, you're going to do a PowerPoint. This is a banana. It's yellow. It's that size. It's a fruit. But you have to eat the fruit to know what it is.
But let me
Just
ask
put
you this.
yourself.
Let's not give him a recipe. What is the question that they need to be asking themselves? Right? What question is the most important that they need to ask in that process to start? Is it like, where is my friction? Where am I losing more money? Where is my biggest cost? What do you think is that question that might be pivotal for them?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. There are so many answers, but the one that I would focus specifically for AI, considering that is, I would say, controversial, in particular for incumbents, it's what is the lowest cost experiment that I can do as fast as I can to show a big result in 90 days.
I like this. Yeah.
I think that's very actionable and very doable.
Yeah. I like this. I like this. So okay, let's move into a segment, Rodrigo, that I love. We call this the 4 trends and 4 dreams. Trends are the signals where we are already seeing, these early patterns that are trying to shape how this space is evolving. And then the dreams is that we see that it's going to work 25 years from now, and that ideally is how we would like it to see it. Are you ready to do this with me?
Yes, I didn't know you were going to ask this, so let's see. It's going to be fun.
Right. So these are the things that are the way that we're thinking, and then give me a trend in models. The models that are we heading toward many specialized ones? How are we seeing the dominant ones? What is your trend of models?
I did some analysis of that, and I think that we're going to have a very good model that solves 70 to 80% of what we need in our cell phone in 2 years. And, only the hard questions or images or videos will go to the cloud. And I think that's going to be very revolutionary.
But you think it's one model, many models? How do you see it right now? Is the trend that we're picking up? What do you see people doing?
I think that's what Google is doing, because There is a fundamental flaw in what people think LLMs do. They think because LLMs, for me, and for many good people, it's a kind of a processor. But it's a kind of processor that came with a reasonable memory that got all the text of the internet and zipped into a file that's only half a percentage point of the original size. So when you ask a question for the LLM, it gets that file, makes it 200 times bigger, finds a path and looks for an answer. But the problem is that database is kind of average. And you keep thinking about better ways to process it to get better answers. But it has information from X, Twitter, right? Reddit, LinkedIn. Those are not, that's not people that wrote Encyclopedia Britannica. Those are people that were pissed off and, said bad things about the others. No, that's not very right. So it's a lot of processing to get, some, no, I think a bad word here, but that's lousy content and try to make it good. No, much of makeup. No, it's a lot of makeup to make it look beautiful. So what Google is doing, in my opinion, they are trying to separate the thinking from the memory or the database and put on the database only things that are very true. Only, like the Einsteins of the world would be able to write to that memory. And the general knowledge will be stored somewhere else. And that would allow the model to be very, very small. I don't know, 5 gigabytes or 10 gigabytes, and running your model for running your cell phone for most users.
Okay. Right. Let's talk about trend number 2, interfaces. Does AI stay in the chat, or do you think that it will disappear into the workflow? Where it stays?
I just changed my mind. I thought that graphic interface had a role and nobody, was talking about them. And they said, we are so used to, clicking on the screen with our fingers. And of course, there's going to be a role. But after I installed NanoClaw on my cell phone, and I actually got NanoClaw to run my Python programs in the cloud. It's amazing. I just ask, run this model and tell me which stocks to buy. It's not doing a web search on what I should buy. It's reading, calling APIs, looking at database and giving me the answer via Telegram. Oh, that's so practical. No boots, no password. They just
So you see it on the chat. You see it on the chat.
Yeah, and that's also where I think people waste a lot of time because somehow people use NanoClaw or OpenClaw for letting the agents somehow randomly decide for them. Maybe I like a little bit more control, so I ask the agents to run a specific problem for that specific circumstance, and it's really amazing. I'm talking to like I'm having 3 or 4 meetings per day nowadays, and I don't use CRM. And then I asked NanoClaw to create a program to interact my meetings. And I say, I want to record the name of the person, where they work, what's the follow-up, and the date. And 1 minute later, said the program is installed and run. You just start the sentence with I interacted with, and I know I have to run that program. So to have like Telegram, build a program for you in 1 minute and make it run right after. It's pretty amazing. I think so, at least.
So, but then it's perfect because the trend number 4 is about control. Do companies move forward owning their models, or do you believe that they're going to be relying on these big platforms?
It's inevitable that for the best work, they'll have to run on the platforms because, just like... and it's IQ, right? It's much better to have more IQ than less IQ, by definition. But because of risks and costs, you also have to run open source, or better saying open weight models, because otherwise it becomes too expensive. You just want to extract tables from a PDF. Maybe you don't need the best visual model to do that. Maybe one open source will be good enough. And there is a big risk in relying 100% on big tech. I'll just give an example that happened to me just yesterday. I was creating tables and formatting graphs on Gemini, and suddenly the quality became very lousy, very, very lousy. And the day before, it was really good. So what probably happened is that there was a peak of demand at the time, and it was rationing computing power for me.
Right.
So it's kind of strange, you have your process, your best process running on a company that may ration, uh, your brain. That's kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
unless if the open source can do basic stuff, I definitely hedge and have part of my business in open source just to hedge.
Interesting. Then my last question then probably goes a little bit on that, is like a trend on economics. Do you think that AI will widen that gap in between the companies that can afford to pay for it, or do you think that actually it's going to level it up for everybody, democratize it?
That's a good question. I'd like to think that would democratize it, but I only see the opposite, to be honest.
Yeah, the reality doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I mean, first the hyperscalers, right? That's to make ends meet, they need to.
Even in the example that you just put, right? Like if sometimes the AI is giving you this lousy response, and it's probably because everybody's using it. So if you don't have the money to privatize, or like to put more tokens on it, or like to run your more controlled environment, then you're gonna have everybody else type of lousy service.
Yeah, exactly. And if they compete with you, why they're going to give more IQ for you than
Yeah,
for themselves? So that's little bit scary, to be honest.
it is.
And also, going to the survey that I mentioned before, I thought that hallucination would show very high on the reasons not to use AI, and it was, you know, number 20. The problem is not hallucination; it's the lack of talent
Yeah,
and
crazy.
lack of understanding. So, I mean, even if you want to hire a person that will do it, it's a very scarce labor now. So I would think that those that are ahead, they will go much further than those that are behind.
So let's gonna switch some gears and let's gonna go to the future. It's 2025 already. We are thinking in how do we like the world to be. So if I'm asking you your dream number one, is something that you would like to disappear 25 years from now in commerce.
Exactly. Oh, companies are, but I would say it's science, right?
Yeah, I know. If that anxiety would be fantastic, but let's keep it leadership. And let's keep it on companies. What is that thing that ideally you would like from companies to disappear 25 years from now?
From companies. You know, once again, there are so many answers, but I'll tell by my experience, right? C-level executive positions. Every single person that I talk, they complain about corporate politics.
Yeah, I know. Bureaucracy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think that will improve a lot. And that will improve either because you have to compete or because you disappear for someone that's leaner than you. And of course, the Elon Musk company show how that happens.
It's interesting. Yeah, well, let's hope that also the yes mans from companies disappear, and and only the productivity ones stays. My dream number two for you, 25 years from now, is on the extreme. What it becomes dramatically more extreme? Productivity, speed, scale. What explodes?
Tough one. But the answer is like bots, right? Bots explode. I mean,
Okay,
like 3 years ago,
everywhere. everything everywhere at the same time.
Everything is a bot. Every, just like you have like millions and millions of.
It's 25 years from now, right? It's not 5 years from now because bots are already a lot. So extrapolating this 25 years from now, there's no more customer service reps.
Actually,
It's everything is a bot.
Okay. So I'll go one step forward. That's my really vision, and I talked this with one of the creators of the transformer models when I was in San Francisco last year. I think that model is for you to have hundreds of bots that will talk to all the bots in the world simultaneously, and then you have a big collective intelligence.
I like
I
this.
think that's super intelligence.
Yeah,
So,
that's super intelligence. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be hundreds of bots that work for you, but it will talk to 100 billion other bots at the same time. It's going to be a big collective of bots.
All right. So then dream number 3, I would like you to think about an uncomfortable truth. Was that a scenario in 2025 that is around AIs that companies that you think that is likely going to be difficult for them to admit that they're doing?
I think it has to do with, it's companies and the government. I have to put both together, but all this surveillance and control of private lives, I think
They
that's
couldn't know too much about us, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's DEX, and also, I'm seeing this trend, and actually, even one of the VCs in the All In podcast was openly admitting it. You just like the company, you work for a company for 5 years, and it will look at, all your emails, all your phone calls, all your Slack messages, and they will have a virtual you with everything that you do, and they don't need you anymore. Yeah.
Scary. Okay, let's go personal in the dream number 4. So if you have to place yourself in that future, 2025, what do you think that you will be optimizing for? What dream do you want to have?
Oh, that's. I don't know. I always think my life is pretty good. So that's.
Okay, let's think about here the humans. What the human role? Where do you think humans will create the most value in 2025 for?
I was some very promising people this week, and I thought they would be in Brazil focusing on AI, and they're focusing on sports, and I'm seeing lots of people anxious about what's happening because it's what I said before. People were scared about technology 20, 30 years ago, but now we're moving 4 times faster.
Yeah.
So it's the CEO that, doesn't know if he should spend $1 billion in an acquisition, or if his company is going to, go down in the stock market 30% the next day because, there's a cloud competitor, or if he should fire, look at the scenario, like how scary it is. You see a competitor with 20% of your headcount,
Okay.
and you decide that you are going to fire, 5% of your headcount per year, or 10% per year. Maybe it's not enough. But if you fire 20% of your people, you're going to lose the good ones because no one's going to want to work for a company that's laying 20% of the people at the same, at once. They say, oh, I have no future here. So, I mean, entry-level jobs that are disappearing. As I said, the middle-age problems for senior executives, the problems that the CEOs have, anxiety about, what skills do I need, anxiety about pensions because the governments in the world, if you look 30 years from now, they're all bankrupt. There's a lot of anxiety in the air. Everybody that I know, it's kind of anxious nowadays somehow, one way or the other. And I don't know, maybe a little bit, how can I say? I don't have the word now, but when you look at the 80s, 90s, it looked like people were more relaxed.
I don't know. I believe that if we speak with the guys in the 80s and the 90s, for sure they were less anxious than we are right now. And
Yeah.
I think every step of a big shift, change
Yeah,
in technology and industry create
yeah,
this level of anxiety.
yeah.
What
The speed is too fast.
it is too fast. It is too
It's
fast.
too fast. You get Capart, which is one of the leaders of the industry. He said, and like 6 months ago, he said, I still code. I don't think vibe code is there yet. And then he said last week, I don't code anymore. Just vibe coding. I did zero coding. So I mean, you can't. So it's technology. You can't really know where you're gonna be in 6 months.
All right. I would like to probably work towards the end of our conversation, thinking and these very quick questions. Let's gonna keep
Okay.
short answers. Whatever comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah. Let's try.
All right. What is the best advice you ever received?
Trust in yourself.
All right. So if you will have to go back in time, let's assume that we discovered the way to go back into the past, and we see the 18-year-old Rodrigo Barros. What would you tell him?
Not to overreact.
Don't overreact. Okay.
Yeah. No, because like not take really short-term decisions, right? Take the war now that it's horrible. I see my friends in the stock markets trying. They all look at the Twitter 24 hours a day to see what's going on, and I say, I mean, you're not sustainable if you are not sleeping, seeing what's happening like minutes by minutes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we will survive. I'm just think like, okay, after the war ends, what's the imbalance that's gonna need to be solved? So, like not to overreact, like it's the end of the world, to the best of the world, or I'm doomed, or everything.
Relax, calma.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Take the long-term perspective. That's the long
I love
thing.
this. Okay, what it will be an advice that you would like to give to the CEO of today that is navigating this moment of transformation with AI? What is that advice?
Get your hands dirty. It's don't hire McKinsey to tell what to do. Talk to the founders. I would say have an afternoon or 2 hours per week to talk to people that are doing great things and see how you're obsolete in comparison. That's that's something. No, that's something that I learned also in life. In the financial markets, people people have a very hard time to know the absolute value of things, but they're very good of knowing if one thing is better or worse than the other.
Interesting.
So maybe, okay, it's not like if they just, I don't know, they have a process for accounts receivable, whatever.
Right.
And they call a startup that's doing accounts receivable with AI. No, have 15 minutes with what the company is doing, and you're going to say, oh, we're screwed. We're not doing it right. You don't need, like a consulting firm to say, or you don't need, like big presentations. You just go there and see, oh, they are doing better than we do with 2 people, and we have 40 people. Very brief story. When I was in a telecom company before the financial markets, the intelligence area had like 40 to 50 people. And once they changed their forecast because a bank called Pactual wrote a research analysis, and they said, oh, this is very smart. Let's change our forecast. So 50 people had one opinion. They saw this report and they changed their opinion. 6 months ahead, I'm working at this bank called Pactual. And I was in that area that would write a report for telecom for a few weeks. Then I changed to another sector. And I was writing. It was just one person and we were writing and giving advice. And I was just thinking, like, it's 2 people in a bank writing, and we're able to change the opinion of the other 50.
Crazy.
So it's just, there are many things that, 2 people can do better than 50. If you focus correctly and you ignore what's been doing and design it from scratch.
So I have two more questions for you on this. What do you think is a book every leader should read?
Oh, that, that's a tough one. I don't know. There are so many. Let me look here to my.
But well, think about one that actually served you maybe in the past 3-5 years that you still remember. It's like, oh, that made
Yeah.
me an aha moment. What book do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I trying to remember. There is a science fiction book. I'll have to tell you the name later. It was written. I don't know if by someone from CIA or if it was used for.
About what? What about what?
It's about the robotics economy, like 20 years ago, and you read about it. It's better than reading you know, any s- a- any report on what's going to happen. I'll think about it.
We have
What's the name?
the second machine age or the rise
No,
of the
it's
robots.
really a fiction. I'll get the name and then you post on the comments. But
Okay, okay.
I'm doing more courses than reading now, and honestly, I just got back to read. Sorry, it's not an
No,
easy
it's okay.
reading.
Listen, it doesn't have to be a book. Could be maybe a podcast. Could be
Yeah. No, but the book that I'm
an
reading now,
article.
honestly, I'm getting back to my calculus book from university, because math is so important, so I'm reading really the Quran book again, but so, I like to read different things, but, and I'm starting to read, okay, I'll tell you what the one I'm start reading now, and I just read, like the first chapter. It's called The
Okay.
Hour Between the Dog and the Wolf,
Ah.
and that it's really interesting. Uh, because it says how your chemistry change your risk behavior,
Ooh.
and then, I mean, after you hit several successes, you're more prone to take risk and you think more of you. And when you have defeats, the chemistry in your body makes you very conservative and makes you scary of take risks. And that's a very interesting book. I'm starting reading it, and I think it's important because we think we are rational, but usually we only reason backwards.
Ah.
And that's also, I think also that also complements, what machine learning or AI don't give you, because they will give you all these, big regressions, like based on the past, this is what's next.
Hmm.
But I really like this concept, of
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna
chemistry,
check it out. I'm
chemistry,
gonna check it
like
out. The chemistry in the
emotions,
brain.
chemistry, traumas,
Mhm.
biases. I think
Mhm.
that's where
That at the end, the things that make us more
the
human.
machine doesn't go, right.
Right, right, right.
That's what
All right. So
makes human.
then think about then what is that skill that you think every leader should develop in the next 5 years? You're advising many CEOs already, Rodolfo. So what do you tell it? You should get
Yeah, yeah,
into this because what is that?
yeah. I think to some extent it's curiosity and humility, because uh, I honestly think that it's very lonely to be at the top, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone looks at you for, you have to know the way, right? Uh, I remember that sentence, like, how to say? I may be wrong, but at least, what's that sentence we had once? Ju- Tipo, I may be wrong, but I have a plan, right? That's what they expect of a CEO. The problem is, you design a
Curiosity
plan.
and humility, basically.
Yeah, because what happens a lot? You design a plan and you become slave of the plan, because you communicated, you talk that to the employees, you talk that to the like to the board. But
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to have the humility, of changing course. Have to be very careful about setting the plan that's rigid in terms of goals that are not really your your aim. Like, you look at Amazon, it's a big success. Like, they want to have the best customer service. That will not change. But if I say I want to increase profits by X%, no, maybe if you increase the profit this year, it's going to be a bad decision for the second year. So I would just say that things are moving so fast that you
That
have
it's
to
okay
be
to be fluid. It's
fluid,
okay to be
humble,
fluid.
and curious. When the 2 times I went to Silicon Valley last year, I went to visit this place called the Residency, which is an accelerator, and one of the backers is Sam Altman. And
Mhm.
when I talk to the founders there, they always remember me that Sam Altman says that, oh, he can only see 3 months ahead. I think that's an exaggeration, of course, just like to get the message straight. But when things change, you have to update your probabilities, you have to update your scenario, you have to change course sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and also know that things can change pretty quickly, and being very specific, because this is something I read it thought a lot about. Uh, we have this issue now, this disillusionment, because we know that AI is amazing at tasks, but it's bad at coordination.
Mm.
But the big question that I have, and I have many questions, is what happens when the coordination problem is solved? Because then we are going to see things speed up more.
Mm. I like this.
Yeah, and I don't have the full answers, honestly.
No,
All I
I
know
mean,
is that I have.
that's beautiful, Rodrigo, because at the end, what we want this podcast to do is to create that curiosity in people, to enable the questioning that we always want to live in our audience. And
That's something also very interesting, Diana. That I I say this sentence for 20 years, but I think it's truth now, more true now than ever. Which is answers don't matter, questions matter.
the
And I
questions are
think
the ones that matter. And I guess that we
exactly.
also need to be very, very careful, because sometimes we put in the seat of heroes to people that are very successful, but not necessarily might or should be the role models for everything that we're doing. So
Exactly.
I wanna end up this conversation with you in with maybe my short 3 takeaways that I have kind of like putting here together with you. One is that AI is not a, a plug and play, right? That the advantages comes from what you call the process of engineering in your organization. My other takeaway is that we may be in this messy phase, but the payoff of looking small before it actually becomes more structural. So that's something that I'm taking away from our conversation. And my third takeaway is that the winners are not the ones that are going to adapt faster, but are the ones who are going to redesign first. And that is okay to change the course, to be that humble. Where because you need to be humble when you are doing curiosity. It's okay to fail. It's okay to readapt your course. Did I get it right, Rodrigo? Is there anything?
No, that's perfect.
Is there
That's
something else that
amazing.
you want to say to our audience? Is there any other message that you want to leave to the CEOs of today that are leading the companies that are experiencing this change in AI and transforming their outcomes today?
No, I would just say to get exposed. I've seen so many areas, in particular in the finance industry, where we think that we can model the outcome manipulating spreadsheets. And I would say with AI and technology is not like that. You really have to see that, an ad campaign that would take, like 30 days or 3 months to prepare. Now, the startups are taking the coder to the meeting. And then when the meeting ends, 1 hour later, they already have the campaign. That's the kind of shift we are seeing. So you have to
And we need
experience
to
it.
make another episode about the future of the finance companies and the future about the
Yeah,
finance
the
industries.
other day when one analyst of mine, my partner at the firm I had, he sent me a message and said, "Oh, that's a thing that took us 1 month to do. Like this kind of risk management application. Now we can do with 3 lines of English." Yes. So that's it. What took 1 month, 5 years ago, now it takes 3 sentences in English.
Yeah.
That's something that, I think very linear, but when it's exponential, and of course, we have to be very careful also because I think there are some bubbles happening, of course. By definition, there are bubbles. When the path's not clear, you follow many paths. And the paths that go wrong, they make us feel that we're in a bubble. But there's going to be one path that's successful. That's another whole episode about it. But the level of improvement that you're seeing is from like 1 month to 2 hours. 120 people to 10 people, 30 people to 2 people in the banking example. So there are so many examples, of improvements of, 10x or 30x. And we'll talk about that in a technology that it's not ready yet. That's the interesting part. Imagine what happens when it's ready. The limit is going to be the humans in the loop.
The humans in the loop. Thank you, Rodrigo. This has been an
Thanks so
incredible
much.
conversation. Thank you for
Thanks so
the
much.
clarity, for the honesty, and to share your wisdom with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And to everyone listening of this episode, if this make you actually think, even for a moment, that's the point. Because today is not only about what the AI trends, it was, I believe, about something deeper, the operating system of business that is changing. And the real question was not if the tools that you're using are the right ones, but it's more about like, how are you thinking about them? Because you can move faster, you can automate more, and still building something that might not be longer work. This is where you need to think deeper. If this episode helped you to rethink how AI is working or how it should be adopted in your company, in your life, well, share with someone, share it with another leader that is building a strategy on how to implement it right now. And if it resonated with you, please follow us in the Tech Foresight podcast. Send me how the future of your life is going to look like in the next 25 years. I would love to see it. I am Diana Daniels. This is the Tech Foresight podcast. Stay bold, stay future ready. I'll see you next time. See you soon.